Cheryl Toomey writes, Michael Phelps carried the U.S. flag during the opening ceremonies of the Olympics last Friday, deservedly. However, there was a big push from the liberal media for him to give up this honor to Ibtihaj Muhammad, an American fencer. No Olympic medals behind her name, as opposed to Phelps' 25. That was at the point of the writing. Her accomplishment, being the first woman in American Olympics history to wear a hijab during competition. Do you think Michael should have abdicated the flag to her? By the way, P.S., she was eliminated in her category before she made it to the top 16. The argument that I saw from Salon or Slate or something like this was that in the time of Trump, right? Not in the time of Muslim massacres, but in the time of Trump, in the era of Trump, what could be more appropriate than to show the true American values by giving the flag to a Muslim? We'll show them. Well, they said the same things in 2008 when we were dealing with a much, much more stable and controllable situation than we're dealing with today. And we were advertised, we were sold a bill of goods that basically said, if you elect this guy, Barack Hussein Obama, we won't have problems with Arabs anymore because his middle name is Hussein, and he was raised in a Muslim country, and he's extremely sympathetic to Islam. And we won't have any problems with race relations either, because by electing Obama, you see, that'll be proof that we're not racist, and then we can all get together and heal. Everything will be great. How'd that work out for all of us? Our relationship with the Muslim world is worse than it's ever been. ISIS is rising everywhere and killing everybody wherever they can. We're paying them to do it. We just gave $400 million in a sack to Iran in exchange for some hostages, and I'm sure they're going to use that money for libraries and, Meals on Wheels. So the idea that by putting a Muslim in front of our parade, that we'll somehow regain the respect of the world is a little difficult for me to buy. We've been buying this argument for 8 years now that we have smart diplomacy and democratic diplomacy, and now that Barack Obama's in command, we don't have any worries anymore because he's black, because he's got a Muslim middle name. So blacks will be perfectly happy and relaxed, no more problems, and ditto for the Arabs and the Muslims. What you find is that they treat us worse now because they may not have liked George Bush, but they feared him, and I would like to be loved and respected. But as Machiavelli said, if you have to pick one, being loved or being feared, pick being feared, because that's more of a motivator in terms of leaving you alone. So they used to laugh at us behind our backs. Now they laugh at us to our faces. So the whole theory is wrong on that level, on the motivational level, on the level that the liberals wanted it. We want to show the world what great people we are, so then they'll think highly of us. No, they think we're weak, and that would be yet another example of our cultural suicide and our weakness. They wouldn't suddenly change their minds because some Muslim woman is carrying the American flag. They would probably look at her as a traitor, and they would just simply say they don't believe in their culture anymore. They're just bowing. They're taking a knee to Islam as they always have in the past. So, yeah. But the bigger argument, of course, is entirely different, and it goes to the fact that the second argument, I think the bigger argument means that having Michael Phelps give up the position to somebody, it doesn't even have to be a Muslim. If Michael Phelps gave up the position to a person who came from the toughest economic neighborhood, or who'd come from the worst neighborhoods, or maybe he gave it to the person who had the most developmental problems, or maybe he gave it to the first openly lesbian contender in the Olympics, or whatever. If Michael Phelps gave the flag up, was forced to give the flag up to somebody other than the best athlete on the team, that's really what they're trying to do. They're trying, once again, to make it's just extremely obvious. This whole thing is about making the Olympics a participant trophy. The Olympics is no longer about excellence. It's no longer about competition. It's no longer about coming in first, because Michael Phelps is by far the most successful Olympic athlete who ever lived. So if you're basically saying we're going to take the flag, which is the honor, which is the spotlight, we're going to take the spotlight off of the guy who's done the best in terms of competition, and we're going to give it to somebody who, as we found out with her, is a terrible competitor. That's not to look, you're in the Olympics, you're not a terrible competitor, but there's nothing exceptional about you whatsoever. It's yet another example of us saying, no first place anymore, we're not going to keep score anymore, everybody gets a trophy now, and why shouldn't the first lesbian or the first Muslim or the first, why shouldn't they carry the flag? I mean, white people, white male have carried it all the time before. Well, Michael Phelps isn't carrying the flag because he's a white male. Michael Phelps is carrying the flag because he earned the right to carry that flag by winning more medals than anyone else in Olympic history. And that's intolerable. Now, needless to say, if the first person to win the most medals in Olympic history was a woman or a black man or a black woman especially a black lesbian woman, then that would be the explanation for everything. Of course she's carrying the flag, she's won the most medals, but it's not working out that way. So, yeah, whole idea of winners and losers has to be destroyed. The left hates the Olympics, hates it for two reasons. Number one, because there's competition, because somebody wins and somebody loses. And they hate it because we do pretty well in the Olympics. We usually come in first or second in the medal count. I don't think the medal count really... Look, when China beat us, I wasn't shocked and I wasn't depressed. But they also, the progressives also don't like the fact that more often than not, they're going to see somebody standing at the top podium and they're going to hear the national anthem and the American flag is going to go up. And that makes their skin burst into flames. So yes, of course, they wanted Michael Phelps to give up the flag. If they'd had their way, Michael Phelps wouldn't be competing, and neither would anybody else who was any good. The whole American Olympic team would be composed of the people who are the most disadvantaged. Now you really begin to see the liberal philosophy at work. So the Olympic team would consist of inner city kids who came from the most poverty-stricken backgrounds, and there would be, needless to say, that as many Muslim athletes as we could find, and as many women athletes as we could find, especially how many gender-neutral athletes we could find. We'd love to find, men that identify themselves as women winning gold medals in the Olympics, just as an example of how the fact that a male who identifies himself as a female is now the woman of the year. So if Caitlyn Jenner can become the woman of the year, why can't Bruce Jenner, 20 years ago, identify as a female, 50 years or 30 or 40, whatever? Why couldn't Bruce Jenner in 1976 say, identify as a female, and won every single gold medal there was? He'd just win everything because he's got a faster, stronger body than the best female competitors. It just goes on and on and on. They can't stand competition. And this is where you have to hit them too. You just have to hit them not in the intellectual argument, which is clear. You don't like competition because you can't compete. You don't like capitalism because you're too lazy or you're too stupid or both to make a living, or especially make a good living. So other people are going to work hard and smart, and they're going to make a good living, and then you're just going to take it from them. And the excuse you're going to use is to help poor people, but we already talked about that. Fidel Castro is worth billions of dollars, and he's starving his people to death. Okay. Just lost my connection to Ustream, which does not make me happy. Hey, we're back. I don't know if we're still recording, but had a little hiccup there, so it said I lost my connection. And with any luck, it'll be back. And with any luck, we'll just send a little message here. It's like, send this out to our people in the chat room here. Yeah, it's going to be panic. There's going to be panic on the streets of Birmingham. I can feel it. It's so much fun working on the internet. So let me make sure that we're back here, because it just went out. It just stopped. We haven't had that kind of problem in 70 shows, 80 shows, something like that. Hey there, looks like that guy's back. Yeah, just hit the browser. And as I said, the connection just got dropped, so I just hit stream again, and the recording kept going. So I suspect it's going to record okay to my desktop. Anyway, that's that. I'll just type it in one more time. Just so everybody gets it. Sorry about this. Come on. There we go. Okay, either you're win us or get us. Yeah, as I was saying, it's all about destroying competition. It's all about the example that they pick. The reason they want this Muslim woman is because she's not because she's the best athlete, because that's measurable. That's something you can determine. There's times and speeds and distances measurable in that. They don't want the best athlete. They want the biggest victim. Because if you see, this is how it all ties together. The reason the left wants this Muslim woman to carry the flag is because they perceive her to be the biggest victim. You see, she's not the best athlete. She's the biggest victim. Now, if we're suddenly parading the biggest victim, if the American flag is no longer being carried by the best athlete, but rather by the biggest victim, then what do you think that does to our attitude about politics and our country? If the flag carrier is the biggest victim, then that sounds like this country is in desperate need of somebody to come in and help the victims. Somebody to come in and, help them and care for them and provide them with services that maybe they didn't get and EBT cards and special privileges, and will allow them to take 5 breaks from work every day for half an hour at a time, and you go and pray to Islam. See, if you make the flag holder the biggest victim, then you're basically saying, in this awful, awful society of ours, who can possibly correct this great injustice? Us. Give us all your money and all your power. Somebody said, can I type it in again? Because apparently some people are still missing this boat. Just give me 1 second. I'll just do one more little thing here. All right, I'm done. So that's about it. And it's it's just so predictable. It's so easy. It's just kind of almost like shooting ducks in a barrel. What else would they do? Of course, it's what they want. I do notice, however, that many of the people that support this kind of thing, like, let's say Harvey Weinstein and the rest of these filmmakers, when it comes time to box office, they're not talking about giving the Academy Awards to the most unknown films, when it's actually their ox that's being gored and not somebody else's. And you talk to these Hollywood celebrities about things, and you start saying things to them like, well, if that's the case, if the greatest victim should be carrying the flag in the Olympics, as you say, then surely the Academy Awards must go to not the best movie, because that would be ridiculous and sexist and just perpetuate the patriarchy. Surely the Academy Awards for Best Picture must go to the most unknown film. The most unknown film and the most unknown actors have to win, because awarding them to people like Meryl Streep or something is simply, it's racist. Watch what their reaction is there when it's their dollars on the line, when it's their salaries and their revenues. Watch what happens if you tell Hollywood that you're going to distribute Academy Awards on the basis of which film is doing the worst. This is what happens when the world turns upside down, and the world turns upside down when it gets to be too top-heavy. Too much wealth, too much prosperity, too much affluence, too much time, and the structure just gets more and more top-heavy, and then it flips upside down because gravity is a law, and then everything's upside down, and things fall upwards, and chairs are on the ceiling now, and nothing makes any sense. So, maybe it's time for the world to just turn upside down, and then we'll start rearranging the furniture to match the new floor, because reality is our friend and it's not theirs. And I'm just getting a little tired of it, frankly, to be perfectly honest with you. But in any event, I think that'll do it for tonight.